So I listen to Alan Watts a lot. And what he says is this. We looked at the data. He says, I was just listening to his live stream. There's a guy that puts a live stream for his shit on YouTube. So if at any time you want to listen to just some philosophical jargon, that's available on YouTube. And what I was just listening to was something Alan Watts said. It stuck with me, and I think it's a really good point to share, redistribute, to echo. Confusion usually comes as a result of not following your desires to their depths. God, that is so well put together. Sometimes when I listen to Alan Watts, I get not even discouraged. I just realize, gosh, the things that I have a difficult time putting into words and explaining and elaborating on, he does so eloquently and so seemingly with such ease. So let's expound on that a little bit. Confusion usually comes as a result of not following your desires to their true depths. I've said this before in videos in my past, and it came out as a result of my experience with the frustration of being vulnerable and finally giving something a full try. And I did it with love. I really gave girls and women a full try on what they said they wanted. And that's largely why I realized that feminism is bullshit. Everything that women say they want you to do is bullshit, because it's not what they want you to do. They don't know what they want. They're self-destructive by nature. So if you give them control and a leadership position, and typically, there are always exceptions. Exceptions are standard. But typically, your high percentage of the female organism, especially when it's, a human, is they're going to self-destruct. They're going to try. The things that they say they want are not going to end up being what they biologically want. And we're seeing that largely with men and women in relationships in modern day 2020 and shit the past 40 years. We just, the reason why it's a lot more, it's got more steam now is the stats are undeniable. So what I did is when I was in relationships, I was always battling with how much do I want to show this woman I love her or feel about her or whatever, versus how much the image I was trying to keep up with was willing to allow me to be vulnerable and look foolish like that. Until eventually I just like, you know what, I'm going to give it a full shot. And then by doing that, I was able to learn something sincere about myself. And I think that's the importance of doing what Alan Watts is saying. So I think what he's talking about, think about your life right now, especially if you're still, if you're listening to these live. I mean, if you're watching this and this video was 2 years ago, then this may not apply directly to the coronavirus pandemic. But if you're watching this where that's still going on, think about it like this. A lot of people, their entire self-image has just crumbled because, say you were wrapped up and you thought who you were was a representation of the job you did. And then now this virus hits and you don't have a job, or your job's on lockdown. You can be confused internally. And a lot of that can come as a result is because you've never actually went to the full distance of what you said you really wanted. And you settled for an image that was socially conditioned for you. And I think that can happen within a lot of us. And I really think the base of all unhappiness within your core self is not really knowing who you are, which comes as a result of not fully going after the things that you desire. And I think that also comes as a result of not knowing who you are and what part of you is it that's you that desires these things. So you don't know how to follow that wavelength because it's surrounded by the static noise of social conditioning. So my recommendation, my advice is get quiet, get in nature, and put your mind at rest. Stop thinking, stop responding to what you're expected to be, like the titles you're called every day and the restrictions that are put on you. Find out that's just all noise. So silence yourself away from all of that noise, figure out who you are, and then those desires, follow those to the depth. and use humility as a tool. You got to be humble. You got to combat your fucking ego and your pride, your egocentric self, with humility. And that comes as a result of being fed up with trying to get the results that you truly desire by playing the rules of the game that cause you to be a fabricated image of yourself instead of who you really are. So I hope all that makes sense and you can put them together. If you're in the position that I was at, where anytime I do these videos, I'm kind of talking to myself when I was in a position that I could use this help. So if you're not at that point, then this may not make any sense. But if you are, it should flow right together with what you're learning and you're coming into the knowledge of right now. So for what that's worth, confusion usually comes as a result of not following your desires to their true depths. That's all.